The 3.5-inch radio edit of New Order and Fine Time. I'm Marc Riley and I'm in the company of Mr. Robert Hughes. Hello, mate. The Parallel Universe.
Hello, mate. Well, we had a fine time dancing to that, didn't we, in the studio?
What? I tell you what, though. I mean, of course, like New Order, not currently, but New Order, as New Order was, got one of the best bass players ever. And I'm sure I can't hear Hooky on that. I'm sure it's just a sequencer going away, isn't it?
Well, they went to Ibiza, didn't they, to record Technique, the album, and they just immersed themselves in dance culture, acid house culture, and I think Hooky was part of that. There is some bass on there. I think you have to listen very carefully, I think.
Right, okay. Right, fair enough.
Yeah, but anyway, so that Fine Time. So we're looking at the NME here, 18th of March, 1989. In the news, Yoko Ono and the remaining Beatles are continuing to sue. Now they're after Apple computers for allegedly making use of the Apple logo on products producing synthesized music, apparently breaking a 1981 agreement between the computer company and Apple Corp. I always wondered about that.
Well, I heard at the same time that the Beatles were going after Granny Smiths. So, I mean, it was, a legal nightmare.
Oh, it was, absolutely.
Greengrocers, the length and breadth of the country, were in turmoil.
I remember it. It just brought me to mind, though, I was lucky enough to interview Sean Lennon a few years ago.
Right.
And he was saying, just to give an idea of what his his childhood was like, he was given one of the first Apple Mac computers, and he didn't know how to use it, so he got Andy Warhol round to show him, to try and work out how to turn it on and draw stuff.
Really?
And he said he didn't have a clue. I think he ended up drawing a triangle, and Warhol was so thrilled at being able to do that he just thought this is the future.
I was going to say, I wouldn't have Andy Warhol down as a real kind of technophile.
No.
I mean, he didn't even do most of his own paintings.
No, he just got somebody else to do it and put his name on it, which is not a bad way to do things.
I'll tell you what, he's probably like, so Andy, will you come and have a go on my computer? Yeah, sure, Sean. Then come in and then, hello, is that IT? You come down and we've got a bit of a problem drawing in this triangle.
Oh, it's almost like they taped that conversation. Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Sun Ra is now touring with his Disney Odyssey Orchestra. The offbeat bandleader is high on Disney these days, having seemingly cottoned on to Walt's greatest hits after getting involved in the all-star Stay Awake project. And on the same page, closer to home, Jesus and Mary Chain, Sonic Youth and the Swans have been placed on a blacklist of bands that have been refused permission to play at the Town and Country Club in London. Angry agents and group managers have hit out at the ban. Also on the list, put together by venue manager Ollie Smith, are Fields of the Nephilim, Fetus, Psychic TV, Cardiacs and My Bloody Valentine. It's a bizarre story, this.
Okay.
Mark Walmsley, manager of Cardiac, said the TNC is probably London's finest venue and they've shut the door on some of the best bands around. They say they're not happy with the behaviour of the fans and with the behaviour of some of the groups. When they first started up, the TNC would take anything they could get, but now that they're established, they want to play things as safe as possible. It's become the first CD venue in the country. Ollie Smith, meanwhile, is standing by his decision to refuse the band's permission to play and responded to the CD remark by saying it's absolutely true. Apparently there'd been some, it was just about audience bother. There'd been a bit of trouble at a Lurkers gig, I believe, but it seems to be such a rash. What's the phrase?
Decision.
Decision. It wasn't the phrase I was looking for, but you're right, it was a rash decision to make.
But, I mean, the thing is, like, there were bands who were banned from the Royal Albert Hall. Now, well, whatever you think about that, the bottom line is it's a pretty kind of refined venue, and it's full of seats, and I know that Mott the Hoople played there, and the fans who were notoriously kind of, all the young dudes, the fans were notoriously the hairy-arse bikers, as they call them, and pretty rough around the edges. And so if they're destroying the whole place, and you can kind of get that, and so various bands were banned from that. But I played the Town and Country Club, a brilliant venue, a really brilliant venue, but it wasn't seated, and it's not like you could do that much damage. You get a bit of a trouble at a Lurkers gig. Well, and...
What's it? Well, you'd expect it, wouldn't you? But, so apparently Mark Walmsley has said, promoter who's asked not to be named, has said the band shouldn't be too worried as they can always get just as good a deal at the Astoria and Charing Cross Road. So it's almost like they've saved the Astoria from, it says here, from bankruptcy, but you just go somewhere else. Plenty of venues to accommodate you, especially bands like the Cardiacs. In other news, Lloyd Cole and the Commotions have parted company. In a brief statement about the demise of his band, Cole said, "I'm sad, but then again, I'm very happy to have been a Commotion. The group started to fall apart last year when bassist Lawrence Donegan quit to concentrate on a career in journalism, and the future of the rest of the band looked bleak when Cole moved to New York to work solo." So this is interesting, isn't it? Because Lawrence Donegan since chiseled out this amazing career as a golf correspondent. That's what he does, isn't it?
Is that right?
That's what he does, yeah. So he's been working on The Guardian for the best part of the last 2 decades.
I don't read golf articles, if I'm dead honest.
Well, I knew he'd sort of got into that, but he's written a few books as well. One of them's called Quiet Please, about his experiences as a Ryder Cup steward, and one's called 4 Iron in the Soul, which is the story of his year caddying for a guy called Ross Drummond, the 438th best golfer in the world.
Right, and the funny thing is, the irony is that Lloyd Cole's big on golf as well, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I wonder if they're connected.
Well, there you go.
Also in the news, John Bon Jovi was reportedly slammed in a New York cooler last week after police found him in the city's Central Park ice rink at 3 a.m. singing God Save the Queen. According to press reports, the Bon Jovi singer and his fiancée scaled the 7-foot-high wall to gain entry to the ice rink 5 hours after it closed. Sadly, though, Bon Jovi's concert wasn't cancelled because he was released in time.
Oh, mate.
On the singles front, loads of stuff going on. Tribe 22 with Acid, New Beat, which is all doing the rage. Yellows, of course, I'm Lying. De La Soul's Me, Myself and I, more of which in a bit. And we've got Cardiacs.
Well, that'll do for me, mate. The unbridled genius of Cardiacs and Baby Heart Dirt. I'm Marc Riley, and that is Bobby Hughes with the Parallel Universe.
Yeah, we'll look at the NME 18th of March 1989. NME wants to know the first record you ever bought, so they asked lots of famous people to answer questions relating to that, including Zodiac Mindwarp, Fuzzbox, Wonder Stuff, House of Love, Boy George and Tony Wilson, Nick Cave too, who's incidentally is with Spanish Flea by Tijuana Brass.
Right.
Tony Wilson, records by The Shadows and Dwayne Eddy. You've got Thurston Moore of Sonic Youth, who bought Inagada Davida by Iron Butterfly.
Okay.
Yeah, against his wishes, apparently. Sean Ryder.
Hang on.
Well, his brother said, you need to buy this, and he didn't really want it. But so he ended up buying Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond and preferred that instead.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, okay. Where were you going with that? Hang on.
Well, I just wondered who forced him to buy a record. It just seems a bit evil.
Sean Ryder says he bought Hard Rain by Brian Ferry. Best one here, though, is Bill Drummond, who bought Strawberry Fields Forever. He says, I was 12 when I bought it from the HMV shop in the square in Corby on a Friday morning. I was a Beatles maniac. It was a real illness. Strawberry Fields still cracks me up whenever I hear it on the radio. Actually, I never play it because it's just too much. The sheer inexplicity of it musically and emotionally, I still think it's the greatest record ever made. Basically, it brings back all those early adolescent feelings welling up inside me. I loathe nostalgia with a vengeance, but it's survived nostalgia. It's a great way of putting it, isn't it? How, your first musical experience where you really fall in love with a record stays with you forever.
It's strange, isn't it? We were talking about this, Chase and I, the other day, and I don't know if it's some kind of... It's part of your memory that relates that can relate to smells that you had around a certain time.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is that I used to go to a pub called the Shakespeare on Fountain Street near Lewis's in Manchester with Craig Scanlon every Saturday when we were 16 probably. And they used to always play I'm Mandy Fly Me, and whenever I hear that tune, I can get the smells of that pub. It just comes back to me.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it's amazing how that's connected, isn't it? I mean, talking of which here, do you remember the first record? Maybe not the first record you bought, but the one you really that made a really massive impression on you.
Well, the first record that I bought, my dad marched me to a record shop and made me buy a record that I wanted, which was Transformer. But it wasn't when it came out. It was a couple of years later because we didn't have a record player, but we had a cassette player, and I bought some T-Rex. I remember that before Transformer, but that was it. What was yours?
Oh, do you know it was a single by Heatwave called Boogie Nights, which was a kind of disco number.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's why you still wear high waistband trousers to this day, isn't it, Bob?
They're connected. Never leaves you. Yeah. All stuff going on here. Fred fact, and this sort of relates to the PU and what we're doing here. Mark Baxter of Camberwell asks Fred Deller. He said, I was in the library of the National Sound Archive last week looking for material on the Small Faces. They have all the melody makers from the early 60s in stock, but their collection of NMEs starts in 1971. So do you know where I can get a complete set of NMEs from 65 to 70? This is the days of pre-eBay, of course.
Yeah.
Fred says, as you're based in London, it'll be easy for you to access the complete collection of NMEs and other magazines held by the British Museum at their newspaper library in Colindale. I suggest you phone and make an appointment. I think it's worth reiterating the value of the National Sound Archives. He says, the facilities, they're not short on various editions of music mags. Their record library is one of the finest outside the BBC and offers free listening to 750,000 discs, plus 50,000 hours of tape, along with a search and transcription service. A much kind of undervalued service, isn't it? It's still going now, and obviously I think about over 200,000 files are digital, so you can get instant access to them.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was mentioning to you before that we're moving a load of stuff out of one room into another at our house, and we've probably got, I don't know, I've got maybe 200 copies of NME and Melody Maker and Disc and all that, full parallel universe. God, they're heavy. So,
They are.
You know, I mean, I hope they're getting the kind of foundations shored up at that place.
When we moved house, I put them all in big boxes, and it took 2 guys to carry them.
Yeah, sure.
Huge. On the new LP front, Sean O'Hagan reviews De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising. He says, "Are you ready for Martian hip-hop? Can you imagine a Sesame Street where the mutant offspring of George Clinton's mothership have grown up, chilled out to the new rap language and released the first fully formed manifesto for the Daisy Age? Well, meet De La Soul. After this, things will never be the same again." Going on to say that essentially the album is the future of rap.
Right, okay, and you're a big fan, aren't you?
I love this.
In that case, we need to play it. De La Soul and Say No Go. And Say No Go, Marc Riley, Bob Hughes, Parallel Universe.
Yeah, from the album 3 Feet High and Rising. We'll look at the NME 18th of March 1989. Also out this week, Miracle Legion's Me and Mr. Ray, which alludes to guitarist Ray Neal and frontman Mark Mulcahy. Edwin Pouncey says, Miracle Legion are loaded with good songs, arrangements and ideas, many of which stick like glue to your memory to make you ask yourself what that crazy little song was and where did it come from. Lump them next to such awesome talents as Per Ubu, the Colourblind James Experience and Michael Hurley for a quick checklist. It's a joy to hear them at work. You had them in session a few years back, didn't you?
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Brilliant. These bands on tour, the Everly Brothers at Portsmouth Guildhall, Per Ubu, Talking of Which at the Mean Fiddler in Harlesden, Womack and Womack at Hanley Victoria Hall, the Stranglers at Newport Centre, Miles Davis at Manchester Apollo, missed that one. Cowboy Junkies at Cambridge Corn Exchange, Pixies at Manchester International 2, Towns Van Zandt at the Mean Fiddler in Harlesden, Sonic Youth and Mudhoney at Strathclyde University in Glasgow, Stone Roses at the Powerhouse in Islington, the Hypnotics at London Camden Electric Ballroom, Gene Pitney at Willows in Manchester. Where was Willows?
Was that in like
a cabaret club?
Was it in Withington? Was it around Withington, Didsbury Way?
Sounds familiar. Happy Mondays at Belfast Limelight, B.B. King at Leeds University, James and in Spiral Carpets at Manchester Free Trade Hall. How about this though? Night of the Guitars at the Town and Country in London. Featuring Jan Ackerman of Focus, Randy California of Spirit, Robbie Krieger at The Doors, Phil Manzanera, Roxy Music, Andy Powell, Wishbone Ash, Leslie West of Mountain, and Steve Hunter of Lou Reed. Now, he's the secret weapon there, isn't he? Probably the least sort of identifiable guitarist in there, but what a player for Lou Reed and Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah, and a genius, absolutely. Oh, that's an amazing night.
Yeah, incredible. Got time for a quick Mary Margaret review?
Yeah.
Live review. Mary Margaret O'Hara, London's Duke of York. So she's a bit of an enigma. She only released 2 albums in her lifetime. It's a style that you have to sort of come to. You either like or perhaps don't like.
I'm like that.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
I'm on the fence. Reviewer Terry Staunton says, what makes this woman tick? What makes her shudder and shake? Makes her caress a song like a nervous child carrying a tray full of bone china. Words like ethereal, whimsical and delicate turn up time and again. When you read about Miss O'Hara, she stumbles across melodies and murmurs to herself in the middle of songs. He says there's a lyrical quality to her which brings to mind Michael Stipe of R.E.M. Seemingly meaningless phrases leap from the stage and squat in your head. To be honest, I've got no clue what it's all about, but I love it.
Well, excellent. At that point, we should probably go to Mary Margaret O'Hara, but we're going to leave now with the Stone Roses and She Bangs the Drum, aren't we?
That just makes sense to me.
Thanks to you, Bobby, and to Michelle, and to everybody for listening, and Peter, and we'll see you on Monday, and take care.